the current assessment as proper unless you show it's not proper. That's the assumption that's in state law. So, it's basically your burden of proof to show that our assessors are wrong, and you understand that?
I understand.
Okay, so, why don't we go ahead and swear in people?
Would all persons, including the assessor, intending to provide testimony for this hearing, please raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and state your name, address for the record, and your opinion of the assessed value, so we have that.
My name's Kurt Whippafirth. My address is 1134 Sausalito Drive, Wanakee, Wisconsin, 53597. My opinion on the assessed value, I was thinking should be no different than the previous years. And after kind of thinking about it, I think it'd be more fair to look at a $190,365 value.
Okay, so what you're saying is you're amending your form from the 171.5 to 193,
65.
650.
Nope,
No,
one ninety,
yeah.
190,
190,
365.
3, oh boy, did I have that all wrong. 190,365.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so that is what I'm changing your form to, and our clerk will do that as well.
Sure.
And so with that, everybody's sworn, so why don't you tell us why you think that value is correct and the 220,000?
Sure.
Can I go ahead and introduce
Oh, for gosh sakes.
for the record?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is the
Man.
case of Kurt Whippafirth at, 1134 Sausalito Drive. The property key number is 0809-074-6051-5. This property is considered residential. The assessed value of the land is at $54,000. The improvement value is $166,200, and the total value is $220,200.
Okay. Okay. So I believe that the assessed value is not correct based on, as far as the improvements go, there has been no improvements in 5 or 10 years. I've actually lived at this property since I was 13 years old. My mom was the previous owner. So I know there's been little to no improvements that have been done over the past 20-some years. And then on top of that, it is also a zero lot line property. So we don't have as much land on the property as other single-family homes. So I don't really understand how, take my neighboring property, which is 1132 Sausalito Drive, which they are assessed would be the whole duplex with both sides of the property. So the single owner that's obviously getting assessed on the whole duplex. And their increase is at 21%. I don't understand at half of that property, why wouldn't mine be 11%? You know what I mean? So I'm half of what my neighboring property is. I have half of the lawn, I have half of the house. And their increase was 21%. Why wouldn't mine be 11% considering to be half? It doesn't make sense to me, even as I look at a single-family home. So same thing, that's a duplex next to me. Now, let's take a house that's down the road or wherever, a single-family home, just in general, has lawn on left and right side of their property. They have lawn in front and in back. There's more land value that they have that I don't have. So the increase to me doesn't make sense. And then again, as you've heard from others, what was improved? How do you justify $54,000, or actually, sorry, my mistake. How do you justify just the increase itself, the 39,700 in improvements that never even happened? You know, I don't get what we're looking at there, that there's a change. So since the last assessed value, which was, 2020, and the last time it increased, I believe, was 18 going to 19. What makes that justifiable when there's nothing that's been changed? The deck is the same, the siding's the same, you know, there's holes in the siding, it just, I guess I need justification on that.
So just a question for you, how did you come up with the 190, 365? I mean, that's a pretty specific number, so maybe you can help us.
I believe that it should be around 11% increase. I was taking it fair, I was gonna say 10, but I understand the neighboring property, so I would be more leaning towards the higher
So you were
one,
seeing
so
both sides of
11%.
both sides of the duplex condo going up 21% and thinking, well, you know, really, it's taken as a whole, it should be about half of that. So I'm taking 11 of what I got and I
Right.
raised it, and that's why this.
Cause 1122 and 1132 and 1130 is one duplex, and the owner owns the whole thing, right?
Yes.
And their value is at 21%. When I'm next to them, half of what they have.
In
why-
condo ownership.
My
like you're saying.
opinion is I should be half of that, right?
Okay, gotcha. All right, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, any questions, from the board of review for Mr. Whipperford? Okay, Dean, why don't you tell us why you're right?
Right. Well, I'd like to respond to, to help the property owner understand as well some of these things that he's not understanding. So let me start there while Justin passes out the handouts. One is the property records, and we'll have a copy for the owner as well, and one is the comparable sales analysis. So first of all, the question of comparing to a single-family home or comparing to a duplex when you have a zero lot line, or what I sometimes call a twin home, you basically have half of a duplex essentially, and you have half the amount of land that a duplex would have. But if you look at what these units sell for, they don't sell for the same. If you combine the sale price of the two halves of a zero lot line, the sale prices are much, much higher than the sale price of a similar duplex. So what you see a lot of times is you see property owners who've been renting duplexes for years, they pay off their mortgage, and they decide they want to get out of the business of being a landowner, and they go through the legal process of splitting the duplex in half, and what they can sell each half for is way, way more than what they could have sold the duplex for. So they're essentially creating value out of nothing by legally dividing that duplex into two parcels. And part of the reason is because the market for the half duplex is for owner occupancy, which is a very different kind of a market than the market for investors who buy duplexes based on income. And there's just a whole different thought process, it's a different market. You really can't compare them. But when we value property that's legally a zero lot line or a twin condo, for example, we have to look at other zero lot line twin condo sales to establish that value. One of the trends that we found when we did this reassessment this year, first of all, a lot of people think that we just trend the percent increases and we say, hey, we're gonna take last year's assessment and add 20% to it or add 30% to it. And that's really not how the assessor does the work in a year like this. We throw out all of the values that are on the books that were mostly established in 2019, and we analyze the market fresh, and we establish brand-new values, and the increases sort of fall wherever they fall. But the increase is the end product of the new valuation compared to the old valuation. And the new valuation should be based on the more recent sales activity. What we've seen in the last 2 years during and following the pandemic is that the smaller, lower-end housing, the older homes, things like that have been selling much, much higher in relationship to these existing assessed values than some of the high-end neighborhoods. So some of the high-end neighborhoods had average increases of, say, 20%, 22%, 25%, and some of the older neighborhoods had average increases of 35, 40%. And the only reason for that is because those sales of those older and smaller homes were just that much higher than the assessed values that we needed to raise them that much to get to those sale prices. Whereas the sale prices in some other areas, we only needed to raise 20% to get to the sale prices. And that represents a shift in the market conditions over a period of about 3-4 years. And so I've got a lot of people saying, well, hey, this is unfair to to the little guy, the guy who owns the smaller house, maybe the elderly folks who have a fixed income, and suddenly these types of properties, first-time home buyers, these types of properties are increasing in value more than other types of properties. But honestly, our job as the assessor and the appraiser is to respond to what people are paying for the homes in the marketplace when we set those values. Another confusion is that the word improvements. So in the real estate world, improvements just means anything man-made that isn't land. So the state requires us to separate the value of the land and the value of the improvements. All that means is it's the value of the structure, not that you made improvements to it. So that's really what we're talking about here. A lot of cases, homes have deteriorated even, and they still have a value increase on the improvements because the value of the structure just in the market has increased. So some of this is terminology and understanding the process, but essentially what we did to arrive at the value of the home is we compared it to other, basically twin condos or zero lot lines. And I think you'll see if you look at the analysis that they're all selling upwards of 250,000 for very similar type properties. Actually, one of them is 220, one of them is 231. But the adjusted sale prices are falling around the 250 mark, which is even higher than the assessed value. And what I'm thinking too is part of that might be if you've got no updating in the home. Some people will spruce up these homes before they try to sell them a little bit. And so maybe a home like yours that hasn't had really anything done to it in a long time, maybe it should be at 220 instead of 247, which is what the market would indicate. But the home is, it's not a large home. There's, I think, 938 square feet on the main level. I'm looking at this right. And then it's kind of a raised ranch design, so there's a family room underneath part of it that is about 500 additional square feet, but you're talking under 1,500 square feet altogether, including the lower level. If you look at the land value, 54,000, I mean, a lot nowadays is, going about 100,000, so to have half the lot at 54,000, especially if it's an independent unit, really that's not bad at all. I've got some of the twin condos in the brand new neighborhoods at 90,000 for half of a lot. So being an older neighborhood, that land value makes perfect sense to me. But the bottom line is that the sales comparisons show that this is the value of that property. It might be surprising if you haven't looked into what you could sell it for, that you could really sell it for 220, but that's what the market activity has been. These other comparables are all somewhere between, I think, 941 square feet is the smallest one. A couple of them are right around 1,000 square feet, and the largest one was 1,141 square feet. So these are all really comparable size for, most of them just have a one-car garage, just like Mr. Whipperfirst has. And this is just the going rate, this is what people are paying. And it's never my favorite part of my job to find out that, hey, somebody's increasing more than the average and they're gonna have to pay more taxes or something like that. But, it is what it is. The market conditions change and the assessor's job is to follow the market conditions.
Okay, Mr. Whipperfirst, do you have any questions for Mr. Peters in particular?
Right, so, I mean, it makes sense to a point, I guess. There's obviously a little bit of differences, ages of some of these places. It doesn't make sense that, it's a weird way to look at it as you're looking at a single-family home, because I'm gonna have to side on the side of the people that are like, well, I'm looking for the smaller home that's more manageable, but I'm actually gonna pay more than somebody in a full-sized house on a full-sized lot. Again, it's like taking the person that is trying. I mean, I'm a single dad, 2 kids. I don't have, but this is what I got, So it's like trying to be better or get to another level, and I'm getting essentially not intentionally, I don't think, but punished to some level. I'm getting a 28% increase, and the neighboring property right next to me, it's getting less of an increase than me. And Sausalito is its own street. I mean, I know where Knightsbridge is. I know where some of these spots are. They're, location is a lot of it. And this particular road is probably particularly known for not being a higher class road, right? So I look at what's around me and who's improving around me. There's no new siding going on around my house. There's no new roofing going on around my house. There's no value of the property, the road itself is not climbing besides the new development that's happening a few blocks away. You know, I think it'd be more fair if we took the percentage down. I mean, it doesn't have to be 11%, but I think it would be more reasonable to be closer to under 20. You know, I get what you're saying on the individual owner of that, you know, my neighbor can basically take their duplex and say, well, I'm gonna divide it into two today. But you only gave them a 21% increase, so now they're seeing value on what you assessed them at. And I don't get that same thing, because I only have the one side. You know, I don't have the option to split the thing up and make it into something different and gain more. And if that's the way that people are doing it, then maybe the assessment needs to be looked at a little different, because then I feel that is definitely unfair to the smaller person that's trying to do something. I can't afford to buy the duplex next to me. Can't afford to buy the single-family $300,000, $400,000 home in the area. You know what I mean? But I'm from here. I grew up here. You know, I've lived here my whole life. My family knows people here, for sure. We're part of the community. My family business is a part of this community. So I'm trying to live here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the town. And-
Right.
and I
Well,
feel
you know,
it's
and part of
assessing.
this is just your assessment. There's the other end of it's gonna come when the village decides what their rate's gonna be.
Sure.
You know, so one would think, based on percentages, that, you know, it maybe not as bad as you think it's gonna
Sure.
be. However, I didn't know if you actually had a question for Dean. I think that was kind of your summary, I think
I
is what I just.
guess, yeah, I mean, my question is, can you work with me? Can you help me? Can you work with me in any way? Is there any adjustment that we can do that would be more reasonable? Maybe mine's not fair. Can you come back with something that's a little more, hey, I get you. We won't hit you with this, but maybe we can work with this.
Well, let me say this, the percent increase is not a measure of how accurate evaluation is. The percent increases needed to be different for different types of properties and so on. The overall increase as a result of this reassessment was 31%. Now your assessment went up 28%, so you're actually under the average. That means that there will be minimal impact in terms of your property taxes. And that's not
Well, don't
something-
promise that, because you don't know.
I don't know, but if there's gonna be an increase in taxes, it wouldn't be because of the reassessment, it would have been an increase anyway.
That's a better way to put it, yes.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, if you had, a lot of these older, smaller homes did increase more than the average, so in one respect, you've already, you know, increased less than what a lot of the same bracket of home price has. And I guess the sales analysis that I presented shows that the comparable market value is closer to 250 than 220. And, you know, maybe I mentioned we can account for that by the fact that you don't have any updating, and some of those other ones might be a little bit more updated, but we're not talking about fully remodeled properties here that sold for these prices.
Right.
And so, I honestly, I don't think there's anything that I can recommend to the board to do.
What about as far as the you know, the retaining wall? The retaining wall is over listing, you know, it's over vertical, so eventually that's gonna be something that I have to deal with, but you know, that's a pretty big job that I'll have to deal with. And there's no way to avoid it, because if it spills out all over the driveway,
Yeah.
I have to deal with it. You know, this is it's a thing that's inevitably going to happen, so I need to repair that, and that's a huge cost right there. I mean, even if it was a few grand less, you know, would even help. And I understand we obviously have variables of what's gonna change taxes and things like that. I mean, I'm definitely not arguing, I don't feel a major thing, I'm just asking for a little bit of something, you
Right.
know, to understand.
So what it sounds like is, to summarize, you're feel that you've done that adjustment already. You've done that adjustment from the fair market value to what you've got it at, almost 13%. So the adjustments that could have been made were already made when you took into account the price. I'm just trying to,
Yeah, I don't itemize landscaping issues, and every older home like this is going to have something or another that needs replacing. that whether it's not, in one house, it's not gonna be the retaining wall, it's gonna be the roof, or it's gonna be, you know, something inside the house, the furnace, the AC, whatever. So the fact that I'm comparing similar age homes that haven't been necessarily remodeled is already kind of an indication here of what's going on with that type of home.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Whipperfirth?
I-
Any kind of summary? I think we,
Yeah, I mean, I still feel, there's only one on here that looks like it hasn't been updated on the outside, and mine has never been updated. Never once, you know? No new siding this whole time. It's a 1974 house. You got, the only other one is O'Malley Street. Every other one of these has updated siding. There's no question. Very questionable maybe on the 22 or the 211 Kingston Way, but I'm pretty confident that's newer material. You know, I've got a construction background, that's why I'm gonna kinda argue some of that, but I mean, you're looking at, you know, definitely 201 has a brand new roof. 1211 Sausalito Drive has a brand new roof, brand new siding.
yeah, and I'm not here to testify, but that's why they're valued higher.
Right, but I mean, if they're comparable, how are they comparable when I don't have a new siding or new roof? Well, okay, the new roof, all right, hail damage happened and insurance and all that, but that was its own issue as well, you know what I mean? That was a hard thing to have to deal with, so,
All right.
but yeah.
Anything else that you have, Dean, or any other questions from the Board of Review for anybody? No? Okay. All right, then I am going to close the testimony in this case, and we'll open it up for deliberations and see what people think. Or if there's a motion, take a motion. What I'm seeing is that, you know, Dean has these comparables, and they are higher than the assessment, but they're duplex condos that with sales, actual sales, he's adjusted down, and then he's adjusted down for that. And then he's adjusted down again, for the fair market value to the 220, which is in line with, the rules he's supposed to use. Taking percentages and changing is probably not appropriate. I feel for Mr. Whipworth, but I think that when the village board, in their wisdom, comes up with a tax rate and a spending plan, that he's gonna find that he's not disadvantaged by what was done here, which is good. But that's just, you know, just kind of summarizing things, so I'd entertain a motion at this point.
Well, I'll just comment that given the limitations of what we're able to do,
Yes.
there's no factual information about your property that's incorrect. The information we see on other similar properties is in line with what we see on your property. There's not any one specific thing that we can put our finger on and say, that's an error, that's something we missed, that's something that wasn't accounted for. I think we see what's there, and I think the valuation that was put in place is fair.
That's well stated. We're kind of limited in our review.
And based on that, I would make a motion to uphold the assessment of $220,200.
Second.
Okay, so we got a motion to uphold and confirm the assessment that's currently on the property. Is there any other comments or questions? Okay, we would take a roll call vote then, please.
All right, Caleb Gotwald,
Aye.
Stephen Miller. Kevin Phelps.
Aye.
Thomas Wilson,
Aye.
David Kennedy. Carla Andrus.
Aye.
Okay, so that's what we got. Thank you very
All right,
much. I
thank you guys for your
appreciate it.
time.
Yes, you bet. Thank you for coming in and taking the time and. Okay. So, that's all the hearings that we have. That's all the hearings that have been scheduled for today. And so I think the village clerk is going to make the corrections for a couple of them here based on our deliberations, and you will mail the notices, and you're gonna mail those today?
I don't know if I'll mail them today. It might be tomorrow and it'll be certified mail.
Okay, but they'll be done before August 8th,
Yes.
because that's when we,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this
So then,
week.
I'm going to entertain a motion that we adjourn to August 8th at 9 o'clock here. And then that we direct the clerk to provide the notices everywhere that needs to be provided so that we can do that.
I'll second that.
Well, how about you make the motion and somebody else second that?
You said you were.
I know, I was entertaining a motion. Well, we have one, Caleb's ready to go.
I will so move to adjourn until our follow-up meeting, August 8th at 9 AM.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second
Second.
to adjourn August 8th at 9 o'clock and direct the clerk to provide the proper notices that we will be back here. It's a non-debatable motion, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned until August 8th at 9 o'clock.